Welcome, everybody, to the Geek Dad Report's ongoing coverage of Season 8 of Game of Thrones. The one show that literally the entire world is watching, and so are we. And we have no insights that we can give you that somebody else hasn't already thought of, but we
stab more.
We have a YouTube show, and we're going to post it anyway. So, I'm Brian.
And I'm Ryan.
And we are here to babble for 20 or 30 minutes or so about how awesome the long night was. Episode 3 of Season 8. The Battle of Winterfell. The one that we knew was coming and we were all excited for. The supersized episode. And I don't know about you, Ryan, but for me, it did not disappoint. It was fantastic.
It surprised me so much that I had got a phone call from my father, who is 65 years old, who I had no idea had been paying any attention to Game of Thrones, and he just said, "What is happening?"
Well, maybe he hadn't been paying attention.
Wait, I had to double check my phone. Dad, are we? You're gonna talk? We're gonna nerd talk? It's I don't think I've ever got to talk nerdy stuff with you.
That is the power of the Lord of Light right now in Westeros. Real quick, full disclosure, we are going to be spoiling the absolute shit out of this episode.
Yeah.
If you have not seen it, I do not recommend you watch this unless you just don't care and you want to listen to us talk. Then, hey, welcome on board for a little bit of fun. But if you have not seen this, we're definitely talking a lot about it. So come back later if you don't want to be spoiled. Yeah. But for everybody else, welcome.
And just so people know, we are not going to be hate-mongering on this episode and picking at all the fine points like some other people have.
Okay, since you mentioned it, we are going to talk a little bit about that. I mean, it's kind of the elephant in the room right now.
We have to talk about it, but we're not going to be
Yes, we love this episode, and if you want a show that's going to just shit all over it, then you might as well find somewhere else to watch because...
Thank you for the 30 seconds of viewing.
Yes. And leave us a hateful comment about how stupid we are. We're cool with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I loved, Ryan, I loved this episode. Was it everything I ever hoped for? I don't know. I mean, sure.
Is anything ever what you really hope for?
I expected more big, major player deaths, but I'm not sad we didn't get them. It's not like we're not going to get them. We just didn't get them this week.
Yeah, there's still 3 more episodes to get people killed.
And let's be honest, did you really want to see Brienne of Tarth ripped apart by zombies? No, you want to see her die, like I predicted, with an arrow through her chest from Bronn in Jaime's arms. That's the way you want to see her die, not off camera.
Yeah, you want it to be in a very well-lit day scene where you can see everything that's happening.
Okay, this is one criticism of this episode. You can't talk about the long night without talking about how dark it was. I know there was a lot of people. I know you have a hard time seeing things at night as is. So
yes, I have a very hard time with dark scenes just because I have bad retinas, and so it's just dark scenes. Anything even I had turned up the brightness as bright as my iPad would go, and it helped a tiny bit, but
I mean. This is the one valid criticism. I mean, it was really dark, and I got a super fancy 4K TV, and I had to adjust the settings. I will say this though: about 15 minutes in, I started messing around with the settings, and honestly, once I fixed it, it was fine. I was able to see everything that was going on. So I would recommend if anybody out there watched it and just hated it because it was dark, maybe rewatch it, play with your settings on your TV a little bit, and then turn the brightness up and contrast up and.
Were you still able to tell the dragons apart when they were all fighting?
Yes, I could. I could see the green and the red. I mean, if Drogon's red and Rhaegar's green. I will say there was some parts.
That's definitely a dragon. I don't know which one it is. Maybe she should have put collars on them.
Listen, did I have to spend a lot of my energy trying, very, very much fixated on what was happening so I could tell. But I think that's the way they designed it. I mean, the dragon, listen, the bad dragon had blue flames coming out of his mouth. The good dragons were Jon's had green and Dany's had red. And I mean, they did leave a few things ambiguous, for instance, what happened to Rhaegal. He crash landed. I never got the sense that he died. We've seen him in the trailer for the next week's episode, so we know he didn't. Same with Ghost. We see Ghost in the trailer for next week. What happened to Ghost? He shows up, charges, and then he's gone for the rest of the episode. I kept waiting for him to show up and do something.
Ghost, he showed up and he was so ghostly that I didn't even know until I was talking to a coworker on Monday that Ghost was even in the damn episode. So, I did not even notice him running.
We are going to talk a lot about Arya here in a little bit, but I really expected when Jon and the Night King first met, I thought Ghost was going to jump in and like
bite him.
Bite him, yeah. Like he was going to stall so Jon could like run across, but it's not to be.
It would have been if Night King killed Ghost and then rose him up from the dead, and then Jon had to fight the Ghost as a white. That would have been cool.
So I don't know where you want to start with this episode. Do you want to jump around, or do you just want to start at the beginning and kind of work our way through it? Because
let's work our way through it.
All right, so the first character that I was really shocked that I don't know why I didn't see coming, but I just didn't was the return of Melisandre, and she showed up pretty quickly.
Her finger that she was able to get she was like going like this. It looked like the top of her finger like dislocated or something.
I don't know. I didn't really pay that close attention, but I really liked how this episode started with it didn't start with battle. It gave us about 10 minutes of just a lot of tension. You could see Sam just nervous and shaking, and people were just like, everybody knew they were probably gonna die, and you could just feel that. You could just feel the episode of how much tension was in the air. And then Melisandre comes back, and I'm like, oh, she's here. And Davos wants to just immediately murder her, and she's like, listen, I'll be dead before morning, so just calm down. But then, but then she like, oh, well, she's been off training because her Jedi powers have increased because now she's just lighting fires with her mind. When she has a Dothraki put their swords up, and she like lights all their swords on fire.
Really cool scene where it just kind of like just lights up and like kind of like goes across like the whole.
So we're not going to talk
10,000 or something.
We're not going to talk about battle tactics in this because unlike everyone on Twitter who suddenly became medieval battle tactician experts.
Yes.
Do I think the Dothraki going out in front first was the smartest move? Probably not. But I will sacrifice a little bit of logic for the shot we got of Jon and Dany watching this. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen on television. With the whole lit up army of Dothraki charging nothing. It's just dark. And then you finally kind of see them hit the White Walkers and you just see their flames being extinguished. That was so visually cool.
So, Ed, I just want to know, like, what did the White Walkers have that they were just ripping them apart so easily?
I don't know. I don't think you're supposed to know. So, here's my take on this whole thing. I mean, the Dothraki always kind of lead the charge. Having them hold back isn't really the way the Dothraki work. They like to go out and just ride and murder things on their horses.
But you gotta remember, this is all the Dothraki. I mean, she burned all the other cows like in that giant thing, and then made every single one of them a blood rider.
Yeah, I mean, Dany is not really. I don't know why people follow Dany. To be honest, everybody who follows her dies.
But, so like the first major death, I guess, of the episode was
the entire Dothraki. No, I think there was like 3 or 4. There was like 3 or 4 Dothraki and their horses that ran back, and that was very. As cool as the sword, the swords like as an arrow going into the White Walkers army. Yeah. It was just as powerful watching a few people running back in terror. They're just like, ah!
Now, wasn't this when they also released the trebuchets at the right before the Dothraki landed in, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. All I remember is here's my thing. I think the episode did a really good job of conveying that everyone like the impending doom. Like when Melisandre lights her swords on, you're like, okay, here come the Dothraki. They're gonna, we saw last season how bad they fucked up all the Lannisters. You're like, oh, all right, they're gonna. I think even though it may not, tactically been very sound, I think it did a good job of letting us know as viewers what we're in for in this episode. Like, this is not like this is not like Rudy making the team. This is like the 85 Bears are about to play the 6th grade Pee Wee football team. Like, this is not going to end well, right? This is, any hope you have is immediately extinguished. So in that moment, I'm not thinking about whether it was a smart move. I'm thinking like, oh shit, these guys are in deep shit.
Yeah, like this is like they might have been okay. Yeah, like you knew a lot of them were gonna die because they didn't have the fire and all that stuff. But when you're like, oh, they got the flaming swords, they're just gonna start whacking the whites and set them on fire.
And I didn't think any minute of this episode was wasted. I thought everyone was used really well. And I've heard people say, oh, they could have taken the dragons and just. Well, listen, we've already seen the Night King throw a javelin 5 million miles per hour and hit a dragon. So I guess. But do you really want to waste your two best resources? Do you want to waste your two best resources with a guy who's going to hit him with a javelin and immediately turn into another White Walker dragon? Probably not. So I mean, I loved how the very beginning of this with the Dothraki, we get the great visual, and it just shows like you have this great army and their lights are just being snuffed out immediately, and just it set the tone for this entire episode.
Yeah, and it did not give you a sense of relief that they were going to survive at all.
I also kind of liked. I mean, I liked it, but I mean, there's some head shaking moments. I'm not going to say that there wasn't stupid moments in this episode. Like Jon has a plan, and the moment Dany sees Dothraki getting murdered, she immediately just bails on the plan. It's like. Yeah. Well, it's like, okay, Dany, if you were going to bail on the plan, then maybe you should have killed a bunch of people before the Dothraki all died.
No, before, he should have said, sorry about the whole, I'm Aegon thing, and I didn't answer you when you said I wanted to sit on the Iron Throne, or, and stuff like that.
I was okay with them not talking about that at this point.
Let's focus on this fight, and then we'll talk about it. No, he just doesn't do any of that.
It's Jon. Now, that being said, they hop on the dragons, they start lighting up. And at that point, I was actually kind of excited for the flames because you were getting to see a lot more now that the battlefield's all lit on fire.
Mm-hmm.
But then immediately we get the Night King, right? And then he brings in, you think, oh, Jon and Dany. And here's another thing. Everyone's like, well, why didn't they just ride their dragons? Well, apparently the Night King was prepared because what does he immediately do? He brings in like this fog.
Yeah.
That just coats the entire field and nobody can see anything.
Yeah.
And then I don't care what anybody says. That scene when Jon and Dany go up above the clouds and it's got like the moonlit and the two dragons are just sitting there hovering. That is one of the coolest things I have ever seen.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet visual.
And then we got to watch dragons fight. We have never seen it, and we got to see 3 dragons literally duking it out in the sky.
We need some more dragon action figures.
Dude, Viserion got his face half ripped off. That was so cool. I thought he was dead, but then he's still alive. And every time he's trying to shoot fire, it's like shooting out the side of his neck because his face is ripped off.
Yeah, that was pretty gnarly.
And, jumping ahead, I love when Jon was finally like, he's pinned down by the dragon, and Jon's like, fuck it, I'm going out like a boss. And he tries to charge the dragon with his sword. Listen, Jon may not have a lot of brains and knows nothing, but that dude has got balls the size of freaking planets, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, and so was it like a cold fire, do you think? Or was it just like a blue flame?
Here's a criticism of the show that I will 100% agree with. This show does not really like to embrace its fantasy elements a lot. And it never gives us any... What?
I've thought about that too.
It treats its fantasy like it's part of the story they have to tell, but they don't really like dive in and give us like what this is or what that is or how the magic works,
Yeah, what they've been really good at on this show is the politics and the man fighting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like I said, the fantasy elements, they kind of, I think they just wanted to get that out of the way.
Well, I think that bodes well for a really strong final 3 episodes because all we have left is Cersei being Cersei, which is
it's gonna be insane.
They're good at doing that, but and I think this is where I think this episode. I really enjoyed this episode, but I think the last couple seasons you could really tell that George has ran out. That he gave them cliff notes of what happens, and they're really just scrambling to try and fill in the gaps because George was supposed to have these books ready. I mean, they were supposed to be done. That was the plan. Is that he would have
He had 7 years to write one goddamn book.
He would have I think the plan was he was going to have Winds of Winter out by the 3rd season, and then he would have the last book written before the final season so that they could... The whole reason they came on board with this was to adapt his 7 books. They ended up only adapting 5 and then having to make a lot of shit up to get to the very end that he gave them notes on what was going to happen, right? So people were like, the storytelling's gone to shit. Well, I mean, that's what happens. Can you imagine if someone's like, listen... Warner Brothers said, "Okay, J.K. Rowling, we're gonna adapt Harry Potter, and you have 4 books out now, so we're gonna do all 7 movies, but you'll have the books done." Yeah, I'll have the books done.
Just so you know, each movie's gonna probably take us a year or 2 to get together.
Can you imagine how
you'll have a good 8 years? Like, oh, I can write a book in 8 years.
Yeah, and then apparently when they were trying to finish mapping out the final 3 seasons, they finally said, "George, we need your book." And he says it's not going to happen. And so they had to scramble to come up with this story to get everyone to the end, right? So they don't have George's brain and they don't have George's knowledge of what he's doing. They just know how it ends. And they had to write their own story on the fly how to get there, right? So personally... I think they've done a pretty good job. Yes, has there been storytelling issues? Has it moved at weird rates? Yes. But overall, I mean, I think this show is visually just amazing and some of the best story. I mean, it's just a great show.
Yeah, and this whole scene was one big giant battle.
It was so good. There was so much tension and action. I mean, I don't want to break down every aspect of the fight because there wasn't a lot of dialogue. The zombies, everything falls to shit. Basically, Dany loses pretty much all of the Dothraki and then most of the Unsullied.
Okay, so do we want to have a ranking of who had the best kill besides Arya?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can. I do want to touch base real quick on all the characters that didn't die real fast. I will say the one thing that I didn't like is I loved how they were all constantly being overwhelmed, and honestly, seeing Jaime and Brienne fighting together on the top of Winterfell with the 2 swords, they're defending Winterfell with the 2 swords that made up ice.
Yes, that was pretty... No, I couldn't see Pod. What happened with Pod?
Pod lived. So all the main characters, and we'll talk about this in a second, all the main characters that died, we did see die on screen. So, except for, I forget his name, but there's one Dothraki who actually got a name, but I don't remember his name. He died off screen. But we saw him resurrected. It was a little, at times, it got a little bit of a psych out where every time, Brienne would get 9 zombies on top of her, and then it would cut away, and then it'd come back to Jaime, killing a couple of them, and then he'd save her, and then it's there was points when people got so overwhelmed, you're like, there is 0 chance you would still be alive 20 minutes later in this episode.
Yeah. And the dead would have piled up so goddamn high.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the next episode. I mean, they could spend an hour and a half on just logistics of how do you get rid of all the bodies on that battlefield. I mean, there must have been 30,000, 40, 50,000 dead bodies on that field.
It's going to smell so bad in Winterfell for decades.
Feast of Crows is right. So favorite kills, what do you mean? People who got good kills in this?
I don't know. I'm trying to think now. I mean, it's not
there really wasn't any, other than Arya's, there really wasn't any notable, kills.
Well, Lyanna got a good one. Lyanna Mormont.
Oh, okay. So it was basically Lyanna Mormont. I did not think she was going to die. That was the one real big surprise in this episode was that, you talked about her last week, and you were like, no way they'll kill her. She'll be 100% safe.
Yeah, she's a 12-year-old kid.
Not only was she not 100% safe, she got her chest caved in by a giant, and you could hear her bones cracking.
Ugh, it's so gross.
But I still love how she went out like an absolute boss. Dragon glass to the giant eye. Boom,
and he's
dead.
The biggest player on the field at that point.
Well, she did say 1 Mormont is worth 10 men.
Mm-hmm. And
she's worth at least 1 giant.
But the other Mormont also did not fare as well.
Yeah, we lost. So let's just talk. Instead of beating around the bush, let's just talk about the big people we lost this week. Unfortunately, we didn't lose any of the cornerstone characters like Sansa and Tyrion or any of those characters. Now, I will say before we get into the deaths, this episode did do a really good job of, even though they didn't kill... I mean, I guess there's some big name characters that died. Anybody that we really cared about in this episode, they did a really good job of making you unsure that they were safe, right? Like, I really thought maybe Sansa and Tyrion were going to die in that crypt.
Yeah. When all those whites got in there.
Yeah, they had that really touching moment when she's just like, they're like, maybe we made a mistake, or it could, you really felt something between those two again. It made you think like maybe there could be something between them.
They say something about they could just get remarried or something like that.
Yeah, like we could try it again, I mean, and of course Sansa still made it a point to say that she hates Dany. I do like Missandei's like, bitch, if she hadn't come, you'd all be dead.
Yeah.
She's like, I ain't having none of this shit, and walked off. But they did all the characters. The tension in this episode was amazing. Like, you had I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, thinking we could lose anybody at any moment. And I don't think that we didn't lose any.
Watching something while I was watching on my iPad, and she kept saying breathe because I was holding my breath. Dude, and I didn't realize I was holding my breath.
That's the way it was for me too. And it doesn't, for me, it doesn't lessen that we didn't lose Dany or Jon or. I mean, we have plenty of time to lose those people, and it's going to hurt. But this episode was just so good. But okay, so let's talk about the people we did lose. We already mentioned Lyanna. We started talking about Jorah. Jorah went out the way that he came in the friend zone. I mean,
but he took a lot of stabs.
I do love that even Dany, even on Jorah's deathbed, couldn't be like, I love you. She gives him a kiss on the cheek. I mean, she did say she loved him, but it was like, I love you. She might as well said, like, as a friend.
Like, I'm just going to kiss your hand.
Yeah, I will say, Jorah went out he went out exactly the way he would dream of going out, defending Dany. He took out a shit ton of White Walkers before he died. He got stabbed like 40 times.
Yeah, and he just said, I'm hurt. And
then he just like, okay, I can rest now. Can I just say this episode was a real bad episode for Dany, though? I mean, she did nothing right. And then she gets her one moment to try and kill the Night King. And that was pretty boss. She's got him lined up, and she's like, Jacaerys. And he just laughs at her and walks away after he lights him on fire.
It's the only emotion that you see out of the Night King throughout the entire series, where he just kind of gets a grin on his face.
Yeah, he's like, I'm death, everyone.
I don't understand why he didn't just throw his sword or his spear or something at the dragon that was like literally 10 feet in front of him.
I think in his defense, I think the Night King is listen, once again, I don't think we'll get any. I've heard people say, hopefully we'll get some more backstory of the Night King. I think this is it. I don't think the showrunners have any intention of addressing the Night King again.
Well, they're done with him.
Yeah. So if I had to guess, they said that he's death. He is death. And just like death, why is death in a hurry? Death always wins.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're undefeated, 8,000 years undefeated, you don't really care about a guy stuck on an ice lake or a girl sitting in a dragon in front of you. He only killed the dragon the first time because he needed the dragon. I mean...
Yeah. You're just going for your main target. And
he was...
So he got given.
He was laser focused on Bran and did not care about Daenerys. That answered the question, can we kill him with Dragonfire? I thought that was a cool moment. But then Dany decides to land her dragon and it almost gets Drogon killed because like 1,000 White Walkers start stabbing him.
Yeah, could you have made a worse decision at that point?
Bad decision after bad decision. I mean, I give her some credit when she picked up the sword. That was pretty cool watching her and Jorah kind of fight.
What does she have left now? Yeah. She got no Dothraki, like 50 Unsullied, and
maybe 500 Unsullied, and a whole bunch of Northerners who all want to see her dead. And she's got one dragon because let's be honest, Jon is bonded with the other one, so and her nephew lover is the rightful king. So we'll see what happens with her going forward, but. But Jorah went out. I couldn't imagine a better death for him in his eyes. He's hey. Went out the way that I wanted to, defending the queen. So, next up, next big name character we got Theon. I think, he was one of the people. I think we hit on a few of them last week. I think we said Jorah was 100% dead. Theon, we definitely said was 100% dead. I will say this. Theon went out a lot tougher than I thought he would. And I thought they did a good job of giving him forgiveness and kind of like and some redemption at the very end for him.
And we knew he wasn't going to survive. Like when you knew he wasn't going to be the one that was going to do like some tuck and roll and
Oh my god! As pissed as people were about Arya, how pissed do you think they would have been if Theon was the one who killed the Night King?
Yeah. I think people were pissed off about Arya. Just wait until they find out the guy with no penis did it.
I kind of would have liked to see him. I mean, the whole Arya. Here's the thing. I don't think I'd change anything about the Arya thing. It would have been cool to maybe see Theon not just immediately die when he charged the Night King, but had him maybe a little bit alive.
I thought he might put up a fight, like a little sword battle or something.
I think it'd have been cool to have him stab the Night King in the back or something real quick, and so he's a little distracted, and then Arya does her cool knife drop and stab. So that way, he could have. But whatever. I mean, either way, it was fine. I mean, Theon. The whole point was he defended Bran. He defended the Starks, and it was his time. I mean, I think it was a little on the nose, but he charged at death bravely, right? And that's exactly what he did. He knew the end was here, and he took it standing up, and
And since we're at Bran, when he said, "All right, I'm going to go now," and he wargs, what did you think that Bran was warging into?
I honestly thought Bran once
it was going to be something cool.
No, because the episode before made it really apparent that Bran does not interfere. He's just recording. He's the book. Mm-hmm. He's the knowledge, right? He knew what was coming. He's the one who gave Arya the cat's paw dagger at the Warwood tree, at the exact spot that she kills the Night King. He knew it was happening all along.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't change outcomes. He has to let them play out, even though he knows it. You know what he is? He's like a little puppet master. He's slowly moving pieces into place and letting them go, right? He's stacking dominoes. Which I think personally plays into the Lord of Light theory for me, because the Lord of Light stacks dominoes. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see if that's there. I'm just still holding on to that. But
still hold on to that one. I lost my theory of the Night King turning to King's Landing.
Listen, everyone's losing their theories. I've still got this one technically still. As long as Bran's alive, I can hold on to this theory. We'll see. But I think the show's going to end up being much more of a straightforward show than I think people thought it was going to be, which is I think why so many people are angry. But we lost Theon. Who else? Who else we lose? We lost. I really thought Grey Worm was a goner. I was shocked he lived. Oh, we lost Ed. We lost.
Ed, the acting king or Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
We're gonna have the 1,000th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch here soon. Even though there's no wall to protect, and they've already killed the White Walkers.
Yeah, they don't need any more.
And all the wildlings are down in Westeros.
Yeah, all the wildlings are either dead or already in Westeros.
So Ed, we knew Ed. Ed was on our list of 100% guaranteed was going to die. He turned his back in battle and got stabbed through the head. Congratulations. And they still couldn't do the one thing he asked, just to be burnt.
Who was the reason that Ed gets killed?
Sam. Sam held his own. I don't believe for a second that Sam would not have died 30 different times in that battle, but, whatever. He lived.
Yeah.
All right, and so then lastly, the big last one. Well, we had two. We had Melisandre, who, she lit the trench on fire, lit the Dothraki.
Basically pushed Arya in the right direction.
And basically told
the coolest line of the whole night.
Yes. But before she gave him that line, Barrick, was it Barrick? The Lightning Lord?
Yeah. Barrick, yeah.
We finally found his purpose, and his purpose was to save Arya so that she could kill the Night King, which is reinforcing my Bran as the Lord of Light. I like it. But, so the guy with the eye patch, officially in the cool flame sword, laid down his life. He got stabbed. Speaking of guys who got stabbed a bunch, that dude got stabbed 100 times. That guy went out like a champ.
Well, he had been stabbed a few hundred times already before, so I think it's just conditioning at that point. So
yeah, that's probably true. But he died, and then Melisandre, to your point, gave the I don't know if it's foreshadowing for Jon, but The Lord of Light brought him back for a purpose, and he served his purpose. And, now it's your turn. And, I loved how Arya was a badass that entire episode. Just gaffling fools left and right. But I also kind of liked how they used her character. This was really a big Arya episode. It was a much bigger Arya episode than I thought. And honestly, going back, we should have known she was going to be the one to kill the Night King because this was really her episode.
Well, I mean, and they did it in a good way because, like they said, she's not like the big, huge battle fighter like Jaime and Brienne and even Clegane, who, the Hound, who was just being a big wuss the whole time.
I did like how he snapped out of it to protect Arya.
Yeah, and she's not the big fighter. And when she's like slipping around through Winterfell, just
I loved how the zombies charged and she was trapped, and she used her because she's small. She went right over the top and crowd surfed him all the way to the bottom.
Yeah,
and I loved the staff that Gendry made. We all thought that staff was going to play a big important role. Nah, not really. She used the staff. She lost the staff. And then I did like how they went into like survival horror, like it was in like an alien movie where she's trying to get through the library.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody's like, "Oh, how did Arya sneak up on the Night King?" Did you not watch the episode when she snuck around the library and made literally no noise?
Yeah, and she literally was able to like kill the whole Frey family.
Yeah,
so
right. feed them to each other. So then, Melisandre shows up. Arya's clearly shaken. She's taking some pretty big hits, and she's, feeling overrun. And Melisandre's like, what do we say? I love how she channeled, was it Sirio, the water dancer?
Yeah.
What do we say to the god of death? And he's like, not today. And then he's like, I told you when I met again, you'd close a lot of eyes. You'd close brown eyes, green eyes, blue eyes.
Yes.
And then she gives the not today, and then Arya just like... what's funny is, even at that moment, I didn't realize Arya was going to kill the Night King. I still thought Jon was going to kill the Night King.
I just thought she was just going to go dive back in and just start, like, stabbing some rights and stuff.
Yeah, I figured she was going to save somebody or do something, whatever. And then we cut to the Night King.
I think it was going to be Jon. And, because Jon was chasing him. We're like, all right, well, man, he really needs to pick up the pace because Bran's about to die and he's still, like, out in the middle of the
moment Jon heard about the White Walkers, we all knew it was going to be Jon and the Night King. And I had that in my head all the way to the last minute. And then all of a sudden, when you see I didn't even realize it was Arya until, I thought it was Ghost. When you see the White Walker's hair move real fast. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here comes Arya for the save. But then the Night King just catches her like a boss. He's like, child, please. And then she does that drop move that she did on Brienne of Tarth when they were training. And just stabs him and and it's so cool when he shatters. Like, there's no, look on his face like, what? He just immediately shatters, and everybody shatters.
And then all the explosions going on.
Yeah, and then Davos goes to kill Melisandre, and she just wanders off and dies. I wasn't really sure. I guess she served her purpose,
I couldn't tell if she, turned to dust. Because she took off the necklace thing, and remember when she took that off when she was at the Castle Black?
We'll have to see if that was about the same time as the Thanos snap in Infinity War. Maybe that's what happened to her.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense.
So, yeah, no, she took off. She was like 400 or 500 years old. So my guess was she was ready to die, and she finally served her purpose, and just was like, I'm out.
Yeah, peace.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so I think that about covers it. But man, that Arya, man, I have never been more excited to see a final death. Me and my wife both literally were like, yeah.
Yeah, I paused it right after she stabbed them, and I was like, I take a deep breath, and then I rewound it another 30 seconds so I could just watch it again.
Dude,
but it was probably my favorite scene in the whole entire episode.
My wife never watches the behind the episode stuff where they talk for 5 or 6 minutes about the episode, and she watched every second. We both got done, and we look at each other, we're like, Arya's a boss, and we're both same time, best episode ever. It was so great. I know there were problems with it. I know there was flaws. I know people did some dumb stuff. Yeah. Maybe there was a little bit of lazy writing, but
lighting a trench behind your army.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that move, and I didn't understand why they didn't just make a big trench to start out the battle, all the way on the the outskirts, so you could see.
And put your army behind the trench.
Ultimately was there some dumb stuff. Yeah, but I don't care. The episode gave me everything I wanted. It subverted my expectation, which is what this show does best. It gave us a full, complete story arc for so many things that wound up happening in this. Arya, all the years of training led to this moment.
Mm-hmm. All the suffering that she went through.
Melisandre's entire story arc wrapped up in this moment. Theon's entire journey came to this moment. Like, there was so many big things that happened in this episode. For the people who want to just write it off as it was stupid, like, I don't, just because, whatever. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I absolutely love this episode. This is Arya's best episode, and, it's going to make it all that much heart-wrenching when she dies next week.
And going on for next week, like you said, I mean, we get the brief clip of Dany saying, "Well, we won the Great War, now we need to win the last war," and it's just like moving on.
And I have this sneaking suspicion that the White Walkers maybe aren't as big of a deal in the books, and maybe it was more of a show construction than the books. And
it would make more sense. I mean, the book is, they barely even talk about the White Walkers.
And they don't talk about the Night King in the book, So
and I think the show kind of put him in there to just be an equalizer.
And I think a second story. And if I had to guess, George R. R. Martin's notes are, I think the story always ended in King's Landing, and I think in the books, by the time Dany gets to King's Landing, her forces are greatly depleted. So I'm guessing the showrunners were like, well, let's just have her go fight the Night King, and a lot of them die, right? Mm-hmm. So
easy one.
I think the last few episodes are going to be what George told them was going to happen at the end. So I think we could get some really, really good final 3 episodes. I'm really excited. I've enjoyed the first 3 episodes. Even with their flaws.
Does it feel weird that we're already halfway through the final season?
Not really, because I feel like this shows its time, right? I mean, we could have got a few more seasons out of it, but the showrunners clearly put us on this. This thing's felt like a plane that's ready to land. So I'm just ready to get to the final destination. I'm ready to see what happens. I mean, it is weird that we only have 3 episodes left, and that's why it's funny to me that so many people are so angry. It's like, just enjoy it. You get 3 more, and we're done.
In 3 more weeks, you're going to not have any more Game of Thrones to watch.
I mean, we're gonna get the Long Night prequel series, but we'll never, for 3 more weeks, we're gonna wonder what happened to all these characters, and after that, in 3 weeks, we're all gonna know what happens to Sansa, Dany, Jon, Arya, the Hound. We're gonna know, and a lot of them, I don't think it's gonna be happy endings. So I'm enjoying it now, where we still don't know. And got an epic episode that had one of its best characters come full circle and do something so epic that it made me jump off my seat. So,
yeah, and make me want to have another daughter so I can name her Arya.
Yeah, that's what my wife was like. God, we should have named our youngest Arya. I'm like, yeah, probably. We can still technically change it. But you know what? I'm not going to make any predictions for next week. Usually we end the show thinking, who's going to live, who's going to die. I'm only going to say that I still think Brienne of Tarth is...
now.
I still think Bronn. I think he's waiting in a bush with an arrow, ready to launch it through Brienne's heart.
Bronn's going to get someone.
Yeah, I think... So how about this? I think that is going to come full circle at the end of next episode. We'll see. But that's as far as I got for predictions. So I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about the Long Night, or is that about sum it up?
Jaime said he was there to fight for the living. He has won for the living. Is he going back to Cersei? That's what I want.
He is until Bronn kills Brienne of Tarth.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But anyway, all right. Well, there you go. So that is our thoughts on one of the best episodes of Game of Thrones ever, in my opinion, The Long Nights.
I agree.
All right. So until next week, everyone, enjoy Game of Thrones. Try and live, be happy, and stay awesome.
Don't get caught up in your theories, people. Just roll with it.
Don't get caught up in Twitter rage. Just be all right and be happy. And pray to the 7 gods that George R. R. Martin finishes the books.
He's not going to.
No, he's never going to finish. But we will. Till next week. Later.
Goodbye.